Kathi Kresol is here. And Kathi, first off, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Whoops, now we can hear it. There we go. And Haunted Rockford is your website, right?
Correct.
hauntedrockford.com.
Correct.
Go visit this website. She's got such really cool stuff and really wonderfully written. And the reason I got in touch with Kathi is, we were talking about this a bit off the air, people who've lived in this area for a certain period of time, or maybe you're new and you heard about it. Oh, did you know back in the 60s, the story about Santa Claus falling to his death at North Towne Mall, a parachute jump, bring the kids out, Santa's going to parachute in along with his elves, and something went wrong. Now, I've had people tell me, oh, that's just an urban legend. That never happened. But I remember being in school, and more than just a couple of kids had heard about this happening. And like the game of telephone, it's been exaggerated. More people have been added. People have been subtracted and all that. So I looked for anything that had been written about it, a good account. And I found Kathi Kresol's account of this. You wrote this, in 2014? Right about this time, almost 2 years ago on this date. Tell me, first off, what prompted your interest in this, and how did you go about running it down?
I've been researching Rockford stories for about 11 years to use on different tours, and I write for Rock River Times, Voices from the Grave column.
Great column, by the way. Go to the website and read her stuff. You'll love it.
Thank you. Anyway, so I was looking for something to talk about at Christmas time, trying to find a good story, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm not really known for good stories. But
with murder and mayhem in Rockford, Illinois?
Right. So I came across this story, and I had heard this story. It's in Secret Rockford, written by Ernie Fuhrer, and so I wanted to research it myself and see, because he wrote a fictional account of it. And I wanted to see exactly what the truth was. Fascinating story. So I felt like I should tell the story for, I always want to give the impact of the victims.
Yeah.
Really, of the stories that I tell. It always fascinates me of, this is the worst moment, hopefully the worst moment in a person's life. How do you go on, or how does your family go on if you're the victim? That is my primary focus, is what goes through their mind, what goes through their family's mind. And so I researched the story, and I was fascinated by it.
So first off, we can say, not an urban legend.
Not an urban, it actually happened.
And what year did it take place?
1965, December 5th of 1965.
Okay, I was 2, so yeah, I probably hadn't been brought up for that one. And not that you'd recall it at 2, but that was one of the reasons. But in the previous years, in the 60s, being in school, and that story just kept coming up again. And then there was a lull, and then I heard more about it. So set the tale. Now, it's North Towne Mall. Santa is going to parachute in along with what? Some elves, bring the kids out. It's going to be a big thing. Santa will do, a Christmas spectacular.
It's a promotional gimmick, basically, from the village, or from the town, North Towne. And I didn't live in Rockford at that time either, or I didn't live there. And but they were inviting everybody, come see Santa. He's going to come with his elf, and they're going to parachute in, and then you can visit with Santa. So great gimmick.
Oh yeah.
And I have found different amounts of people that supposedly, so up to 5,000 people.
Okay. Which, by the way, for a promotion in Rockford to draw 5,000 people for a Santa show up is over the top big.
Right. Very big. So they're going to fly in, and the elf is going to go first. He has special little rockets attached to his boots that will leave a stream of smoke. Okay. And then
help you follow him on the way down.
Right. Because, it might be hard to see him. And so he was supposed to jump first, and then Santa was going to go after. They're going to land, and then they have a little hut in the parking lot where you can go and visit them.
Nice.
Now, the way it was set up, the Santa that was coming in was not going to be the Santa that you visited at. They had a professional Santa. This guy was going to jump, walk over to the hut.
Where they
switch, and then he's going to go on.
Gotcha. All right, so the guy jumping wouldn't be the one necessarily visiting with the kids. We've got another guy to do that, but you got the suit on to give the impression it's the same guy. Gotcha. I'm tracking.
So it was Cornelius O'Rourke was going to go first. He a lot of experience jumping out of plane, 1,000 jumps.
Okay. He's well experienced in this whole thing.
He's 40 years old. Before they jumped, he always had a cigarette in the plane because he was so nervous. He just had a few minute jitters before you jump out of a plane.
I would want a carton of them. Sure, I can relate with that. Sure,
I don't even smoke, and I might.
No, I'd have one, sure, and a drink too if you got it.
Yes, right. So he had that, and everybody had teased him that the smoking was going to kill him probably.
Oh, yeah, bad for you. Yeah, it's bad for your health.
Well, he didn't have to worry about that, as it turned out in the end.
No, smoking the least of your worries at that particular point.
So he was supposed to jump, and Richard Friend was flying the plane, and he was younger and Bill Fleming was going to play Santa Claus, younger again than Connie, as he was called by his friends. So the time comes, they're flying over. Connie goes first. Things did not work out quite the way they had pictured it. And later they had the EAA come in, looking at his, the FFA, everybody was looking at the chutes. They had all these investigators. Nothing showed wrong with the chute, but something went wrong. And he jumped out of the airplane, and he opened his first initial chute.
Main chute.
And I think from what I can discern from all the readings that I've done, it got caught in those rockets on his boots.
Oh, the ones that are producing the smoke to follow him down.
Right, and he had, he probably didn't have a lot of experience with those rockets.
Probably not.
I think. So that got tangled. And then when he opened his secondary chute, that got tangled in the first chute. Neither chute opened.
Oh, man.
So then he's plummeting. They jumped out at about 1,300 feet or 3,000 feet, depending on which story you read.
Right.
So then he gets down and then building up speed, dropping, and didn't come down, thank goodness, where they had planned in the parking lot with all these, whether it's 1,000 to 5,000 people
there
staring.
There were a bunch of kids standing there watching
waiting for Santa. And so the worst case scenario, he comes plummeting down, but he didn't come down in the parking lot. He came down in a backyard of a doctor's house who luckily was not home.
Oh.
But it was witnessed by several people, and he landed in a tree and then fell onto the ground. But so it didn't end the way they had all hoped.
No,
but he did come down
no.
in the parking lot, thank goodness. Then Santa saw him after he jumped. Bill Fleming was watching him going down, realized he was in trouble.
Yeah.
The announcer that was at the mall luckily caught on to what was happening, and he made some story up really quickly about it being a dummy that they threw out just to see where the wind was blowing so that Santa knew the optimum time to jump.
Nothing has happened to Santa. Don't worry.
Right. It wasn't Santa. And then Santa jumped out. How Bill Fleming had the courage, after watching what he had just witnessed, a friend of his, knowing how it ended, and I have to say that Fleming and O'Rourke's wife were both in the crowd.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So Santa and the elves, their wives, are both watching from below.
Thank goodness their children weren't there because O'Rourke had 2 small children. So Bill Fleming, after seeing this happen, has the courage to jump out. He lands where he's supposed to, meets with the Santa that is going to visit with the children, and then he rushes off to the hospital to be with the wives and his friend.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So the story has been twisted around a little. It's really not the Santa skydiving incident because Santa luckily made that landing unharmed.
It was Santa's elf.
Yes.
The one dressed as the elf with the rockets on the shoes to produce the smoke, which ended up being the thing that really caused the huge problem.
Really? Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
So, and Cornelius O'Rourke is from Lake Geneva, so he was taken there after he went to the hospital. Obviously, there's nothing they could do. The people that witnessed it happening said they knew from just him hitting.
You don't survive that.
No, there's no walking away from that.
Wow. That's so for those who had heard that story or heard remnants or pieces or whatever else, that's the full look at what happened here. Bill Fleming, 29 years old. Connie O'Rourke at 40. Pilot, 23 years old. all of them experienced. All of them knew what they were doing, too. It wasn't like, hey, we rented a plane and we bought a parachute online and we thought not that you could buy online, but we bought one at a garage sale, thought we'd try it out. These guys were pros.
Right. He actually was he was a professional skydiver, and he was also an instructor, Connie O'Rourke, and he also was certified to pack the parachutes. You have to have a special certification. He had that. So, he was packing other people's chutes. He probably packed his own chutes. So he did it right, and there was nothing they could find. There was no error as far as the packing and the preparing for
it was the outside thing on the shoes that had nothing to do with the chute being packed or how. Oh, wow.
But, I just keep thinking of, when you're writing these stories, you think what was going through their mind because he had to know. And, thank goodness it said the majority of the people that were watching had no clue of what had happened. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah, other than, one person looking at it going, this isn't what is supposed to happen. But if you don't know what's supposed to happen going in, how do you know it's not part of the show? Which is we've heard about other performers being injured in the middle of a performance where the crowd thought it was part of the act.
Right.
Because you don't know exactly what the choreography of all of this is.
Yeah, so, the announcer, thank goodness he had the thought process to be quick on his feet and say, oh, by the way, that was just a dummy.
Yeah. He's testing out the winds. Nothing to be alarmed about here. No need.
And the whole time in his head, he's probably going, holy crap.
Oh, man. I don't know what we're going to do here, but let's try to. If it falls apart, it won't be because I fell apart here in the microphone.
Right.
Yeah, I've been in scenarios like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not like that.
No.
Never like that. But yeah, I understand where he's coming from. If you just join us, spending some time with Kathi Kresol. She's a local historian, a paranormal investigator, operator of Haunted Rockford, paranormal events. The book, Murder and Mayhem, Rockford, Illinois. Where can people get this book, Kathi?
Several places. You can get it on my website.
Okay. That'd be the place I'd go to get it.
And Culture Shock, I just dropped off another series of books for them. Toad Hall has it. Some of the gift shops have it, like Midway Village, Tinker's Swiss Cottage, Phoenix Traders have it. Camp Grant, the Command Post restaurant, carries my book. So
nice.
Yeah, I've got some local people covering it for me.
You're going to want to read Kathi's stuff. I'm serious. You'll learn stuff. You go, wow, I'd heard about that, but I didn't know that. Or I didn't know that part of it, or I'd never heard about that. That blows me away. Off the top of your head, if someone were to say to you, all right, spookiest thing about Rockford, scariest thing that sets your nerves on edge that you have discovered during paranormal investigations or just living here and looking around, what leaps out at you?
Well, we've had some very interesting murders. Rockford is very fascinating where people are very clever in the way they come up with killing each other here. The ways to kill each other.
That should go on the sign when people drive into town. We're clever about killing.
Yes, that should be. Yes, you should get a little award. But we have some good history. A lot of great people that came here. Fascinating people to read about. I write all sorts of stories. It's not just ghosts and murder. No. I write some. Sometimes people actually walk away at the end of my stories. I do have a couple.
What?
Yeah, I know, crazy. But so we have some great ghost stories here that have gone on for years, and they have more history. A lot of places when you go for ghost stories, it's just all stories. There's no history to back them up.
Right.
Rockford, I have been able to really dig in deeper and find the people behind the ghost stories. And there are a couple elusive ones. There is a lady in white that haunts the downtown area. I have not been able to pin a name on her. But usually if somebody can tell me a story, I can find something that might correspond with that. And with the lady in white, I have several because I thought she's seen at the river, so maybe she drowned in the river. There were a lot of women that drowned, some because of suicide. They drowned. I have a new story coming out in a new book that's just about to be published. 4 City Stories, brand new, published by Heath D. Alberts. And I tell the story of a woman who drowned herself in the river. And then we have people, and she hangs out at the Coronado. So whether she was an actress or somebody who might have died in one of the apartments that they had there. So you just don't know with her. She's elusive, but I keep trying.
But has been spotted downtown.
Very much so, yes.
Crazy.
Yes. A couple years ago, there was a report about somebody saw a woman in the elevators. They live in the towers across from BD Park, and they were looking at the parking garage. It's right across from Coronado. And they could see the elevator going up and down, and it had a woman with a long white dress and a bun, and her hair up in a bun. And that is exactly the description that is spotted. She walks around the river. She's been seen in the Coronado. So people were calling me up and saying, who could she be? Because when the police were actually called, it's on radio, a Rockford scanner.
Sure.
And police were called. They went there. They looked, couldn't find the lady, but the elevator was going up and down.
But the people who called were perfectly credible, and they did see something.
Right. Yes, in the middle of the night, going up and down. So, it was an interesting story, and people will come because I work at the library. Everybody knows I work at the Rockford Public Library. They come and they share their stories with me, and it's fascinating to me.
I love that. Growing up, one of the ones that we'd heard a lot was the ghost of Kennedy Hill, or
Absolutely.
the specter of Kennedy Hill. And, it never happened to me, but a friend of mine, there's a girl looking for a ride and took her to the house, and they all had a little variation on them,
Right.
but around the same sort of tale.
And I've been looking into that story. In 82, it seemed to hit, it really, really built. And that time people were lining the street with to see her. So I've been looking from the 80s back to the 1972, to see if I could find a story about a woman getting hit on that road. And then I was talking about this in the fall. I do a lot of presentations in October, as you can imagine. And
Sure.
I was speaking to a retiree group, and one of the guys sent me a story afterwards. He saw her in the 60s, when he was in high school. So I'm like, so I have to go back even further
Right.
to try to find who this woman could be that supposedly. And then I've heard other people that it was just people playing pranks, dressing in a nightgown, running around in the field.
There's always that goes on once somebody says, hey, I think I saw this there. There's always somebody who's thinking, I could
Right.
capitalize and scare somebody and have some fun with this.
And it's fascinating to me the way these legends pop up nationally, because I'm not from Rockford. And
Right.
we had a story just like this back home, what I call my back home, in Nebraska at the same time, because I moved out here in 81 from Nebraska. So we had a woman in white running around one of our roads, too.
Well, it was trendy at the time. It was very trendy at the time.
Yeah.
You're going to want to grab these books, you guys. Murder and Mayhem in Rockford, Illinois, and Secret Rockford. HauntedRockford.com is Kathy's site. Get there and grab these books because, for the person who loves Rockford and Rockford lore, they're going to love these books. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we're out. The new one's coming out. Will you come back in and hang out with us again?
I will.
Good. I would really, really love that. And thanks for the Santa story this morning. That's outstanding.
Thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Glad to do it.